5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
In the spirit of respect, authenticity, and reconciliation, the town of Slave Lake honors and acknowledges that we're situated on the traditional lands of Sawridge First Nation within Treaty 8 territory, home to Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit peoples who have occupied these lands since time immemorial. Councillor Gramlich.
Make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. And we have
That's what we have to hear all the time. Now you know how it feels.
technical difficulties. Please pause.
Hurts, eh?
It really does. I have a
wonder how long
fantastic
that's gonna
speaking
do.
voice.
Well, that's bad too.
Nothing like hearing your own voice back on feedback to make you.
Hello, hello.
This is fantastic. I love it. We'll
Yeah.
take a 5-minute recess, please. Thank you.
And muting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so we have returning back to the nightmare of my voice being repeated on YouTube. We'll continue with, we've approved the agenda, so we can move forward into reports and new business. Up first is construction season projects.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. The purpose of this report is to have service level review with Council related to construction season. This is a part of our yearly review and discussion, and we would like to share information on upcoming projects. The report intends to inform about typical steps involved before starting any site work, where to expect work zones and process of road closures, etc. Typically, construction season kicks off after May long and runs until end of October as weather permits. There are several projects, several steps that are involved before any site work is kicked off. So the first step is once a project is awarded, we start with construction kickoff. And it is a meeting that's held with contractor to go over project scope, limit of construction, hours of construction, talk about what would be their communication plans with respect to affected residents, what additional supports they will be providing to residents. For example, will they be coordinating garbage pickups? Will they be installing temporary ramps? Will they be hooking up temporary water hookups if water services are affected? And will there be active communication if any driveway use will be affected during construction? There is also emphasis made during that meeting to hire local contractors or source local material, especially for the contractors that are coming out of town. Then we schedule health and safety orientation. It's to make sure that safe work environment is maintained on site. Then we also request and review traffic accommodation strategy plan, as well as environmental construction operation plan. These are more to make sure how traffic will be managed through active work zone and what are the protection measures in place to protect the environment. We also review road closure plans if requested by a contractor. Typically, road closure plans are requested 48 hours prior to closing any section of the road. And then information is shared with the emergency services and school division in advance to plan their detour. We also undertake review of shop drawings to confirm if proposed materials to be used in the project matches the specifications or not. We also review truck routes and disposal sites. This is to make sure heavy equipments and truck utilize approved truck routes as per our bylaw, as well as the disposal site is reviewed to confirm if materials are disposed of properly. Before any site work, communication notices are shared via various platforms. We also initiate active communication with affected lot owners using door-to-door knocking or pamphlets, and this is typically done by contractor. And during construction, we hold timely progress meetings and inspection to make sure project is progressing per contract drawings and specifications. And then next, I would like to share some of the expected work zone during the upcoming construction season this year. So we will have work zone on 6th Street Southeast between 10 Ave Southeast and 9th Street Southeast for water main replacement. We will have work zone along downtown core, especially along East Boulevard between 2nd Ave and 3rd Ave Northeast. We will have work zone on 14th Ave Southeast between 5th Street Southeast and 12th Street Southeast. It's mainly for road rehab work, sidewalk replacement, spot repairs on storm and sanitary main, and partial water line replacement on 11A Street and 13 Ave Southeast. We will also have work zone along Main Street for completing phase 2 grind and fill line painting. It will be between CN Tracks and 7-Eleven. We will have various work zone throughout the town for completing annual sidewalk repair and asphalt patching program. We will also have work zone at Hill Diamond Park to complete parking lot paving and adding lights along the trail. Apart from street work, there is also interior work scheduled at Government Center, MRC, and Aquatic Center. Our recommendation is to accept this report as presented.
Councilor Adams.
I move that council accepts the presented report as information.
Any further discussion? Call the question, those in favor. And that is carried. Thanks, Kush.
Thank you.
Next up, Community Services Department policy.
We're starting with revisions and new policy.
Perfect. Yes, let's go with that.
The request is for Community Services Department policy revisions and new policy to improve existing policy and introduce policy for the multi-recreation center, the MRC, to improve safety, to outline the development and implementation of 2 updated policies, replacing outdated versions, and the creation of 1 new policy in accordance with the directive and discussions with the CAO, revisions and updates to the user fee and facility policy and the alcohol management policy, and the creation of the rec center user code of conduct policy. The user fee and facility policy aims to enhance the existing framework by improving clarity and consistency in key areas. This is listed behind the other presentation I'm doing this morning, so maybe back a few pages in your attachments. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So sorry, the user fee and facility policy aims to enhance the existing framework by improving clarity and consistency in key areas such as booking allocation priorities, dispute resolution, insurance requirements, and definitions. This updated policy ensures greater transparency, fairness, and efficiency in how facilities are accessed and used by all community groups and individuals. And note that the additions to the current policy are noted in highlighted yellow for that particular policy. The alcohol management policy that is attached, the previous policy was from 2018 and aimed to improve the guidelines and expectations of local permit holders in town-owned spaces. And then thirdly, the new policy being presented tonight is the Rec Center User Code of Conduct Policy. So coming out of COVID, many recreation centers across Western Canada have reported a rise in aggressive and inappropriate behavior from patrons and users. In response, several municipalities have developed and implemented behavior policies aiming at promoting respectful conduct, ensuring staff and public safety, and preserving the welcoming environments in our community spaces. This policy also addresses and improves and defines upon previous policy in the area of acceptable swimwear at NLAC. Some of the resource impacts, as mentioned, these policies enhance clarity, consistency, and fairness by clearly defining expectations, promoting equitable treatment, and building trust through transparent processes. These improvements also boost efficiency, reduce misunderstandings, and support legal compliance by aligning staff actions with current regulations and best practices. The communication strategy, once approved, these policies to ensure broad awareness and understanding. The new policy would be shared with our user groups in upcoming meetings, posted to the town's official website, and promoted through social media channels. This multi-platform approach ensures transparency, will encourage community engagement, provide accessible information to all stakeholders. So the recommendation to council is I'm recommending approval and adoption of the 3 policies to enhance operational clarity, align with best practices, and better serve the needs of staff and community. And they are attached.
A few questions for you.
Yeah.
One, we're in the policies, we're defining that it doesn't apply to the government center, doesn't apply to necessarily all town buildings, depending on who's the leaseholder and that. Why is it that it applies to the library if they're a leaseholder?
Well, I think we have a fairly reasonable and broad conduct policy in relation to the library. We've seen an increase, as I mentioned, not only us as a community, but in other communities coming out of COVID. And in discussions with the CAO, my suggestion was to not only do the revisions as I was tasked with for the alcohol management and the user fee policy, but also it was my suggestion as a director to introduce this for the MRC because our incident numbers have been at that particular location more so than any other the past few years. So I felt it was timely to be very specific and have some policy that was tailored to our multiple user groups that use our 3 specific facilities, more so than the legacy or the NLAC, the MRC. We have a number of coaches. We have a number of different community groups that use both the ice as well as the dry floor. This presents a really clear and concise expectation for our user groups, our patrons, and as well as our staff. In fairness to our patrons, that this is something that we have in place.
But why the library?
Sorry, why not the library?
Why the library? Why are we including the library in the facilities that are being listed when we don't list the government center because they're a leaseholder? I'm just wondering if we have specific leaseholders, why are we singling out the library to fall under this?
I don't know if the
Where's our
library is
authority
even
for that
mentioned in this
policy?
policy, Councillor Adams. The policy in relation to the MRC is mostly geared towards the MRC and the Northern Lights Aquatic Center. There's no reference to the library in the materials that I provided as the attachment.
Bear with me, I'll find it.
Yep, go ahead.
I think, Councillor Adams, I think your reference to the library is in the first policy, not the last one. Is that what you're referring to?
I'll pull it up.
Okay.
Bear with me.
Go ahead. Yep.
One of the references here, you'd highlighted says a special event booking form should be received no later than 30 days prior to event. That's under tournaments, I believe.
That is an addition.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify because as we know, sometimes we can tend to be a last minute town. If there is space available and it's still inside the 30-day window, what would we do then?
We would take the application and process it and provide service to the local group that's approaching us.
Okay.
What we're trying to do is put the word out in our meetings that are forthcoming for the new season to
Okay.
please, because our bookings are up a good 20% over the summer season and looking to be more so going into our winter season, that it behooves and benefits our local community groups and also provides a little more actionable time for staff if a 30-day
Yeah.
window
No, I
is
totally
adhered to the best of their ability. It's not a situation if someone comes in 3 weeks out from a date, if we have a date available and we have staff available, by all means, our direction and the direction that staff have been given is to try and accommodate any and all bookings.
Okay.
It's just trying to create a slightly different environment in town to maybe get away, if at all possible, and encourage people to be a last minute application type situations.
That's totally fair, and I
Yeah.
can certainly appreciate that. I just want to make sure that we're still maintaining flexibility and
Absolutely.
obviously booking spaces and working with groups, because sometimes things are out of their control and sometimes people do try to pull off last minute events, et cetera. So I just want to make sure that we're still accommodating.
Absolutely.
For the list of updates that you have here, I guess more so regarding the MRC and the user groups, when you have a meeting in the fall, will you be sitting down and just expressly letting everyone know all of these policy changes? How are you going to communicate that to them effectively?
So we have met with our community groups, particularly in the ICE setting in the fall. We did so last year. It was a good opportunity to meet not only with our user groups, but then to have an open and direct messaging with Slave Lake Minor Hockey as our largest client in the winter.
Yep.
We held a meeting where each team had to provide coaches, assistant coaches, and parents were invited to attend so that all of those cogs within the organization, all of those user groups within Slave Lake Minor Hockey were aware of the changes we were introducing, the expectations of those groups, and then working also to, they have a volunteer that solely deals with their organization, ensuring they meet the mandates of Alberta, Hockey Alberta as an example. So absolutely, when we have the initial ICE booking meeting, we will then be saying to them, here, we would like to have that secondary meeting like we had last year to do Q&A and also talk about why this policy is introduced and what the implications and expectations are. So it's not something that we want to hold over our groups. I think it provides a framework that's really clear on the expectations and what the ramifications are if there's a failure to be respectful to each other in our venues and particularly to staff. So it's tough because, I apologize, we've got a user fee and allocation policy which deals with our groups. That'll obviously be shared at our meetings, and there's a change to that policy where because our interest is grown in the spring for our spring and summer ice, we're looking at having an allocation meeting in January or February to meet with those groups and try and balance out so that we can maximize not only the availability of ice time and fill our bookings as much as possible, but also in a way that is communicated clearly and is fair and equitable. Because we've worked off sort of an unwritten level of sort of our priority list that's in Appendix A and Appendix B in the allocation, facility allocation policy. This sets it in writing to make it fairly clear as to how we balance that out if and when that happens. We've been able to work out this past year since I've been here. I think we've said no on one occasion, for particular request. We're all about trying to ensure we've got best allocation, best use of our facilities.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
Steve, did you want to?
Yep, 3.88.
Do I have a library reference there, Councillor?
What is it, Steve? Sorry?
3.8A, is that correct?
Yeah, I just wonder why we single that one out.
Have a page number?
5 of 44.
5 of 44. Town facilities. Alex, go ahead.
So Councillor Adams, the one you're referring to is in the alcohol policy, in the first policy. That was an existing policy that was, community services didn't update to it. So we didn't add that. That was one that was already existing from before.
Says issue, okay, well, whatever.
So we can review that
It's
policy.
in the
and remove-
May 8th, 2025 version.
Yeah, the new policy being updated, but that policy was taken and just added to, so we can remove the library if that's the wish, or if you want us to review that,
Fine.
but it,
I would say it's worth reviewing. If
Okay.
we're going to pass this, it should be
Yep.
fully reviewed.
Yep.
Then if that's that, I'll continue on if anybody else. Okay. 5.4
Which one?
in there.
Same policy?
Sure.
Are you an alcohol management?
I'm s-
agency?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, getting there. Page 10 of 44. Hours of operation. We're stipulating the hours of operation that we're allowing consumable liquor. Wouldn't that be in the permit process? Why would we have that in the policy? Because it may be outside of that, or it seems weird to put the hours within there on the limitation.
I don't think it's strange. I think we're stating that, unless the town has an appetite to not have hours set, and we may have requests come in and we can judge those on a big case by case basis. I thought it was prudent to draw midnight with a consumption of 1 a.m. because that was also fairly standard practice in some of the other policies I reviewed. And I thought it was reasonable based on the use of our facilities, being public facilities for that hour range. If it's something that council would like to see adjusted, I'm happy to update that. But I sort of had to draw, please note anytime myself and my department looks at improving or rewriting policy, I look at best practices that are working elsewhere. I try and find the top 3 or 4 examples of policy that my peers are using in other communities, and that's what I draw from. So those hours would have been most likely taken if they weren't in the existing policy, and I'm not sure I've got the existing policy here. I can go back and look, but and I can happy to do that after session as well. But that if it's new and added from previous policy, it's probably based on hours of operation for similar towns of similar size to Slave Lake.
While we're kind of on that section, some of the stuff regarding security, is that something that we're not mimicking the AGLC stuff? It's a bit different. I'm just curious to why, or if there's a reason behind it, and not that it matters either way. I was just curious if that's something we want to go a little more with security based at doors, or because theirs is like, I think it's 1 per 80, or maybe it's dropped to 50 and that's why we did it, but I don't think so. And it doesn't stipulate that. I was just looking for the thought process behind it. Not saying it's bad or anything. I was just curious.
No, again, and my apologies. I've spent most of my time the last 2 months dealing with the user group and the allocation policy. This was the first policy I did probably a couple of months ago. So I think, again, following in line with some of the other communities, again, this is an opportunity if you would like it to be unlicensed security. I also come from British Columbia, where the majority of liquor licenses provided by BCLC are provided with paid security versus volunteers.
Yeah, I'm all for that. I just meant like the ratios and stuff.
Oh, the ratio
In
one.
my head, it would, if I was a user group, I wouldn't screw this up because I'd read this, but many are going to get their license from the AGLC and it's going to be a different number. And then they're going to come to you and they're going to be confused and say, well, I thought it was 1 per 80 because I think that's what it is, unless it changed. It used to be that. And I think there might just be confusion. Like, well, I got this from the AGLC. That's just what I was getting.
No, I appreciate that note. I'm happy to review and update that to be fully in line with AGLC.
Yeah,
If that number is shy of what the AGLC number is, happy to, that makes
okay. So that
more than logical sense to me.
I think Councillor Adams' point,
Yeah,
though,
but it just-
hours and all the requirements.
you weren't trying to go harder on purpose or nothing. It was just, you just had a number.
No, I don't create punitive policy at any stage, even when it comes to alcohol. So that could have been an oversight on my part, or again, having taken that from what I thought other pieces of reasonable policy from another community of similar
Yeah,
size.
it could be, but just try to mimic it because people get confused and then they'll be arguing with you about that in the day of or something, right?
Okay, Councillor Adams, do you want to go back to the,
Yes, sorry.
Yep.
Skim back. So. As soon as I'm ready to talk.
Ooh.
Sorry?
he said he'll turn his mic
When
on.
I'm
He's
ready to talk.
He's trying to find where he was in the notes.
Turns it off. I'm not ready. A second. I'll skip to another one and then I'll come back to that. Okay, so we're defining areas within the MRC to be licensed and unlicensed. Why are we doing that? Why would we not just have the whole building either be licensed or the whole building be unlicensed, or?
Well, traditionally for liquor licensing, Councillor Adams, there's verifying and specifying location is key to fulfilling security and those other pieces. So if we've got a building such as the MRC and a group wants to come in a license and we've got, say, a hockey event, I don't particularly want that license to be for the entire MRC, because then we've got people potentially wandering around the facility with an open carry when really we most likely have a section of the MRC that we'd like those people consuming alcohol to remain in part because it's then it's easier for us to, and enable security to then secure the space as per the liquor license for AGLC. So if someone came to us with the request to have the full use of the building, then that's something we would review. But as the director, I would have to be honest, my hope is that we would have a set area that's as part of the request that makes it easier for us to monitor and ensure that all portions of the license within our building are being met. And by allocating space, whether that's, as we have in the past, one particular section of the stands or the space, the multi-purpose room space above Arena One, for instance, then it makes it a lot easier for everyone involved to ensure the safety of our patrons and that alcohol is being consumed in the space that the permit is. I don't have any problems if someone wants to apply for a permit and it's granted and has proper security to have the entire building, but that runs really contrary to any of the policy I've seen municipally for alcohol use and location of license.
Okay, I'll move on. Reading through a couple of these, I see not really contradictions, but it seems ambiguous. So, God, I can't even speak. Not defined very well between the three policies where we're talking about if a non-sporting event with fewer than 30 people is held at a town facility and alcohol is served, the alcohol management policy appears to require the licensee to have insurance, while the user fee and facility allocation policy states that non-sporting rentals under 30 people do not require any insurance. So is there a way that we could review some of these to align so there's only the one process or the one requirement?
Happy to dig a little deeper into that.
And then
I didn't know there was any incongruent piece on that, but thank you for that.
I just think it could be interpreted as a conflict, but no, appreciate that. The other point I wanted to make was the appeal process for all the policy contraventions. We seem to have two different procedures, like the alcohol management policy outlines violations, but does not detail the appeal process, whereas it is detailed in another one. So can we align those as well and take a look?
We can, absolutely. I can make it so that it's bang on the same. I think for the alcohol policy,
Make it clear, right?
it didn't mean for any lack of clarity. So I appreciate the feedback that was how it read. I think with the alcohol policy, usually our alcohol permits are one-offs once a year. Our user groups and the people that are potentially facing any discipline ban or reduction in time or whatever the outcome may be are people we have an ongoing relationship with. So I think that's why there's probably a slight difference in both the immediacy and it being spelled out the way it is in the other policy, but happy to make them uniform across the board for clarity.
I think we should, just to avoid the confusion. Still gotta go back and find.
Okay, well, Counselor Adams is looking back for that. Is there anything else from other counselors? So summary so far is alignment with EGLC regulations to avoid confusion, as well as the duplication of requirements that Counselor Adams was speaking of, and we'll just give him a couple minutes to find what he's looking for.
Sure.
No, take your time.
I'm good.
Okay, so then we will need a motion to bring back revisions, I believe. Counselor Adams.
I'll make a motion requesting administration to bring back the revisions we discussed and present back to council.
Okay, further discussion? Called question, those in favor, and that is carried. Thank you. Okay, Hilda Eben Park.
Build Even Park. This request improves existing infrastructure and increases department facility offerings. The purpose of this report is to request funding in the amount of $20,000 to resurface the current asphalt surface at the outdoor rink at Hilda Eben Park. Coordinating this work with the scheduled parking lot paving will create a cost-effective opportunity to upgrade the rink into a functional year-round recreational space for the community. The current outdoor rink is primarily used during the winter months when it is flooded for ice activities. However, due to the deteriorated condition of the existing asphalt surface, it's not suitable for alternative uses in the spring and summer seasons, despite its potential for broader recreational programming. With the paving contract for the Hilda Eben parking lot already awarded, staff engaged the contractor to explore the feasibility of resurfacing the outdoor rink concurrently while on site paving the parking lot. The contractor is offered to complete the rink resurfacing at a cost of $40,000. And in return for a 5-year naming sponsorship is committed to contributing $25,000 towards the project. The request, staff are requesting the remaining $20,000 to cover the shortfall. This funding would not only support the asphalt resurfacing of $15,000, but also include funding $5,000 for line markings for futsal, pickleball, and potentially basketball, and including the installation of 4 hoops, making the space a multi-use all-season asset for the community. And then our options are to proceed or not. Upon funding, communication and public announcement would be made through the town's website, social media channels, and direct communication with community user groups to inform residents about the upcoming improvements. And then a formal media announcement and photo opportunity would follow upon project completion, highlighting both the resurfaced outdoor rink and the newly paved Hilda Eben parking lot as part of a coordinated enhancement of community infrastructure. This project supports the town's strategic plan by enhancing community infrastructure, promoting year-round recreational opportunities, and maximizing the use of public spaces. It aligns directly with the goals of the Community Services Department to provide inclusive, accessible, and multi-use recreational amenities that meet the evolving needs of residents. Community Services is recommending that council approve funding for this project to support in-kind sponsorship that has been offered by the contractor.
Councillor Adams.
Why is this coming up now and not a budget?
We had no knowledge at the time of budget what the price was on, we had an idea of pricing on the pavement. We had no indication whether the in-kind opportunity was going to be taken up by the contractor. And that only recently happened a week or 2 ago.
Well, I understand the in-kind part, but we didn't even bring up anything about resurfacing that, the rink.
This really was a situation that I wouldn't bring it up as a resurfacing because it would be $40,000 hit on my budget. So it makes sense to me when we've got the parking lot being paved 25 feet away and we've got the potential now that it's been secured of this primary sponsorship opportunity to bring it before council. I didn't want to put in the budget for the straight overall cost because I don't know if we've got the return. I think we have the return at $15,000 plus the $5,000 outfitted, but at the expense of having to do the project plus extras. That's why it didn't come up before council at that time for budget.
Councillor Gramlich.
And it's pretty bad, like it's worth doing, and then it could be used in the summer now, right? Like it is time to get done.
It's cracked and it's not and part of it, what it creates too is an issue when we had our post season meeting with SLIP for ice. It creates conditions for ice.
It's harder to, yeah.
It makes it hard and it cracks the ice. And we're also, they've been working with the contractor on filling the crack over at the high school rink as well, because it creates a crack in the ice and go from there. We have some issues with when that facility was installed over there. One, the boards posts weren't put in the ground properly using sonotubes. So every few years we make we've made do with mechanisms to flood the posts and have them then sort of move down so the boards are at the right level they should be, so that it makes it easier for SLIP to put the ice and have that go in November and stay till March. So this is the sort of first step. The next would go for budget in 2026 in relation to fixing that solution. It wasn't in front of budget because without the $25,000 commitment, I didn't put it forward. I thought that was imperative to us moving forward, was exploring that opportunity to reduce our cost as a municipality.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Hughes.
So I guess Councillor Gramlich kind of stole my thunder there with my question as well. I haven't been on that rink, so I just wanted to clarify that it is in fact in need of resurfacing, and obviously it is on your radar.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Okay. I understand that things come up here as well. I'm actually in favor of this just for the simple fact that we do have a company who is willing to sponsor it in that way. That doesn't always come around, and I think it's fabulous. I also think it is very, very heavily used. Most of the time when I drive by or go to the park, there are people playing hockey on it. I do really like the fact as well that you are kind of pitching this as an all-season asset as well, and to kind of get, full function from it year round. I did have one other little question for you, just to consider with this when we're possibly spending funds there. Is there some way that also netting of some kind could be hung like a little bit higher there? Because I actually noticed walking through the trails that pucks go flying right into the kids area where kids are playing. And it was sort of just a safety concern for me. So I'm just curious if that's something you have identified and possibly could work into the improvement here.
I think we've got to take a look as we do some work there and we have some boards removed to get the contractor in, that we're taking a look at possibly having to renew some of that backstop.
Yeah.
And that would be part of that small ancillary amount that's above the cost of the paving. So
Mhm.
absolutely happy to do that at the same time.
Yeah,
Be
now that the
considerate of that
playground
now that
equipment
it's-
is there, it's heavily used, and I've had a couple times where I've seen pucks go out of the rink towards the equipment, and I was thinking, oh goodness. So something like that as well, and just in terms of safety at the park is a high priority that I'd love to just put on your radar also. But overall, I support the project. I think it speaks to council's initiatives for community health and services. And I think we have a hockey community as well. I think it's well used. And I think that everybody in the community loves that and appreciates the use of it. I also think we've invested heavily in SLIP and other things that we've done as a community as well. So this just kind of, speaks to that and contributes to the growth of that. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes.
Councillor Adams and then Alex.
So the sponsorship is going to want naming rights to this. Are you having to install signage? Are they responsible for that? Are we?
They're responsible for that. When we do our naming rights and our sponsorship pieces, for instance, like with the basketball court and the tennis court, that announcement will be made in the near future. That responsibility and cost is that of the person who signs the agreement. So it's not a town cost, it's part of the expense. So there's the outlay in the in-kind for the paving, and then if the signage is X number of dollars, that's the responsibility of theirs, and we hang the said signage for them.
And what is the life expectancy of this repair?
That's a great question. I think we're looking to get a good 7 to 10 years out of it. The materials that have been there now have been there for many, many years. And I think with proper maintenance and us being mindful of the surface, that will be key to getting, and expanding the lifetime of the surface as much as possible.
Thank you.
Alex?
So if I may, and pardon me, in response to Councillor Adams and for all of council, in the budget talks probably earlier or later in 2024, probably wasn't on the radar at the time. There was lots of things going on. With recent changes, the direction is more so what can we do with less? So this contract for the parking lot was something that was on the radar. In conversations with myself, community services, there's a potential there to work with this as a partnership. So we explored it, and that's why I came forth today. So for the budget, it wasn't something that was on the 2025, 2026 for repairs. It was something that came about after the fact of, we had these guys already 10 feet away paving the parking lot. Is there an option to explore possible donation or partnership with them to do more while they're already there versus spending $50,000 or $60,000 to bring them in and do a whole new paving without them being in the parking lot? So that's where this was growing from a couple of weeks ago, a month ago. When I was speaking to Joe, was what they're already there. Is there an opportunity to look at some of the repairs that may need to be needed? So that's just to add some information to what's going on today.
Councillor Hughes?
I'm just curious if admin has a particular pot of funds that they would like us to make this motion from. Is there unrestricted, or what would you suggest?
So if I may, with my apologies, Mayor and Council, I meant to speak to finance today about that, and I missed it. So I will get the information of where the funding would come from if it's approved, and I will get it back to you.
We got to make the motion to where it comes from.
There actually isn't a motion in here technically, so, yeah. Would we want to table this then until you decide that and bring it back with a motion so that?
We
it's
can,
clear?
we can get the funding for the next council meeting and bring it back as a,
Delay.
with the, yeah, I apologize. I meant to do that today.
That's okay. I'm just making sure.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, then motion to table this till next meeting when admin can bring back motion and funding.
Fantastic. Call the question, those in favor? And that is carried.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Yes. George, the question period, or if he wants to leave, could I ask some questions now? I'm getting a bunch of text messages.
I'm happy.
He's right there.
We can, we'll bump bump question period up before CAO updates. It's my meeting. I can do that. Go ahead.
We can.
I thought it was only answering
We can do,
questions to my-
let's follow the agenda and.
Well, I just don't want to make him stay if he was leaving. But okay, we can.
It's,
follow-
we're 2 minutes away. I'm sure we can make.
Okay.
Would you like me to stay for a question period?
Yes, please.
Okay.
We'll proceed then with the, thank you. We'll proceed then with the CAO update.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. So for the CAO update for today, we'll start with the planning department. So still speaking with the municipal development plan and the land use bylaw. Work continues steadily on this municipal development plan and land use bylaw review project. It is ongoing and we're starting to see the tail end of that. Also, the share the most recent What We Have Heard report is now available on Engage Slave Lake, summarizing the feedback received during the previous public engagement efforts and open house events. Under development permits, since April 1st, the Planning Development Department has approved 7 detached dwelling development permits, 1 commercial development permit, and several discretionary and permitted use approvals. And there's 3 more detached dwelling permits applications in the review process. The fair market value advertising for Fournier Place is concluded under the required timeline for May 16th. Sorry, will conclude on May 16th, and the department will then proceed with the next steps on the lot sales. And finally, the Planning Development Department is proud to announce that they were awarded the Community Achievement Award by the Community Planning Association of Alberta, and 2 of our staff members went down to Red Deer to receive that award. On the project side of things, they completed the catch basin replacement at the corner of Rexall next on Main Street. The next work is to do the gutter and curb replacement on May 12th. After that, tree removal will be undertaken, followed by the concrete resurfacing works. The project manager has also been in discussion with some of the business on Main Street that we'll see some sidewalk work done as part of our Main Street revitalization coming up. In finance, the tax notices were mailed out on May 2nd. The department has been reviewing the calls that have come in, clarifying questions. And they've also completed the annual review of the town's employee benefits in partnership with Alberta municipalities. In the fire department, as of May 8th, there was 210 calls. There is a bit of a trend downwards on the calls based on last year. And the 6 students from the PCP fire program graduated in April, and the new wildfire urban interface team was hired. And all of the candidates were internal hires. So the fire department was proud to have candidates available. The enforcement services, the peace officer now has full authorities, has been focusing on some of our problem areas in town, school zones and parking, as well as noise complaints. And there was 9 complaints received in March, 7 of them being animal, 1 parking and 2 unsightly property calls. In operations, they've been flushing hydrants and working on water meter changeouts, as well as the public works have been sweeping boulevards, the recycle depot cleanup, which is taking place tomorrow. Continued work on potholes, which is ongoing. NLC and FCSS, the income tax program, ran until May 2nd. There was 4 volunteers with 180 hours and 410 tax returns completed. The MRC, as mentioned, there's lots of spring hockey, about 20% up from 2024 bookings. The Racket Center opened and has been very well received, and there's a pickleball tournament coming up in June. Parks and facilities, they're cleaning up the parks. They're working on commissioning the splash parks, which will take place later in May for the 2 splash parks. Coordinating repairs at the Legacy Center from May 26th to June 16th, and that does not affect any of the bookings through the Legacy Center. And some events coming up is National Life Jacket Day on May 16th. The Frolic in the Park is rescheduled for May 19th. That was one of the Frost Fest events that was canceled due to weather. And a family bike rally on May 26th at 5:30.
Mr. Hughes?
Just something that jumped out to me here, so it's good that Joe is still here. It says diving board order, $10,000 higher due to tariffs. So we are gonna seek a quote that still is within the budget, hopefully, or?
They're actively researching to find, to see if they can come in at the approved budget. And
Okay,
if not, we will bring a report back to council.
okay, thank you.
You can,
Unfortunately, Mr. Patel is not here. We've also had with the supplier we're using, Kush, and from an engineer standpoint, is also working there, wanting us to have a new base for the unit.
Yeah.
So we're working with the supplier. Part of it's the tariff, and the actual cost of the board and the unit has gone up over the last 30 days. But also too, we've got some interaction with them and trying to curtail those costs and have them come in as close to budget as possible, or at least know exactly the scope of the work, if it's just a slight increase for the materials, or if it's a slight increase in materials due to tariffs, plus a potential new foundation base for this. I want to know that prior to coming back to council, so I know exactly what I'm requesting, whether it's more funds than what's been approved, and to be able to provide a good example of full scope of work.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Councillor Choba.
I'd like to make motion to accept the CAO update as information.
Any further discussion on CAO update questions? Okay, call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. We'll move forward to the management task list. Councillor Adams.
First, it's nice to see this small. It's nice to see them rolling off, but I do have one question, and other councillors, please correct me if I'm wrong here. But do we not usually have an annual update on our truth and reconciliation progression prior to National Indigenous Peoples Month in June? Or was that something we started doing in September? I thought it was.
I can't remember when the report was, if it was either June or September, but our administration may have a better idea.
Because I'd like to know where we progressed, where
believe we
we're
reviewed
slacking,
it.
and where we need to
I
go.
think it was June, and then we had moved it to September because of scheduling things last summer.
I think that was the one.
Yeah, that was the
But
one. So
Prior to that, it
he's,
was.
is it coming up again in June, or can we expect it for September, I believe would be what we're asking.
It would be up to council, but last year we did plan for June and then we ended up pushing back for I
Yep.
think end of August, September. So it really would depend on council if you want to see it come closer September, or if you want something brought before, I believe it was June 30th or 21st, but that can be up to your discretion.
Continue.
Can you have it ready before June 21st?
I believe
Or do
we
you
could
need-
definitely bring some sort of report of plans. Maybe that not everything will be finalized with the September 30th date, but we can definitely bring some information. I don't think would be impossible. We would just need a motion from council to task us.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion, task administration to come back with a report regarding our progress towards truth and reconciliation and summarizing future projects and what we've accomplished in the past year.
And if you can put the deadline for that,
When do you need a deadline?
just would be by,
Third meeting of June?
correct. Yeah,
Whatever
usually
date
we have to
that's on.
put a
Okay.
date on that. Okay, any other questions there? I do notice that my question is for the legal service review. We had a due date, it says of March 18th.
I will follow up. I thought that was done. I will check on that. I thought there was information sent, but if not, I will follow up.
Yeah, it should be a report coming back to council because it will be a decision on council regarding the various proposals from.
So when I spoke to finance, there was a review coming later in the year. So I think we may have just needed to correct the date, but I will follow up.
That sounds great. I will make a motion to,
No, gotta finish my.
oh, we have to vote on, oh, geez. Can you tell I'm tired of it? Sorry. Counselor Adams has a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question, those in favor? Thank you. I don't think mine was more a question. I don't think there's a motion coming out of that. Counselor Hughes,
Motion to accept the task list as presented.
call to question, those in favor? That is carried. Okay, now we can move into question period. And I believe we have
Yeah.
questions for Joe, if you want to just take a seat there.
Alex, you touched on it a bit, so it actually works. The spring, summer ice, what did you say it was? It was
About 20%.
50%?
Yeah.
So I'm getting told, this is like right now, that we're not able to rent it multiple daily time slots. And we have staffing limitations, so, which includes regular floods. So I just want to make sure this is accurate and wrap my head around it. I'm assuming it's probably not accurate, but we're not able to rent the ice because we don't have someone to flood it.
That's incorrect. And we had a meeting, myself and Alex, with one particular user group that came up in conversation. There was a miscommunication around a stat holiday. and having an employee come in doing a flood, we were able to fix the situation and it didn't affect the rental at all per se. So I don't believe we've said no to any bookings currently due to staffing or flooding issues. So I'm not exactly sure. If the person who's contacted Councillor Gramlich would like to contact me within the next 24 hours, I'm more than happy to take those calls. As I say in my meetings with our user groups, and I try and make my presence known and be recognizable in the community. I'm a phone call and email away from clearing up any concerns or questions that any resident of the town of Slave Lake or area in our funding areas has for me as the director or for the department in general. So I'm happy to field those. That's the first I'm being made aware that we've had any bookings be turned away from a staffing issue. Big kudos to our rink staff, including Wayne and his team, for making themselves available, as far as I'm aware, to almost 100% of the requests that we get, including recently the offering for us to be able to offer ice times before we actually open the building in our early morning hours that we used to offer years ago, while we're still trying to maintain parks. So I'm interested to hear from anyone who's contacted you. Please reach out to me tomorrow with any of your questions or concerns, because I've not been made aware of any such booking issues. And I've been working hard to develop relationships with our 5 or 6 groups that have been renting the ice at this time of the year.
Okay,
So-
what is the ice times when can we rent the ice? From 9 till 9?
If someone wants the ice currently, particularly now because we haven't gone into parks, obviously it becomes more of a tougher issue for us from the staffing, but we're making it work through July and August as we've got parks in full effect. But that being said, we have ability to rent the ice through the day. If people want to rent the ice from 9 o'clock in the morning to 3 o'clock, we traditionally don't have a lot of rentals from 3 to 4:15 because that's students coming out of school. So I'm told our staff sort of kiddingly refer to it as a bit of a dead time because it's not really available for users because they're coming out of school. And then the majority of our bookings right now are taking place from about 4:15 to up to about 10 p.m.
So if I get called or say, well, that's not accurate, you could rent the ice from 9 till 10?
We're trying to accommodate ice rentals with everyone as our requests come in. Right now, I had a meeting in relation to ice users with our head of facilities and parks, Calvin Beauchamp, as well as our manager for facilities, Ashley, and then Marley Monahan, who's our new booking agent over at the MRC. So we're collecting all of the potential requests we have between now and the end of August over the next few days. We have a meeting booked for next Tuesday to try and accommodate. Will we be able to accommodate 100% of the requests come in? Possibly not, based on the reality that we have a finite amount of operational time and only one rink in currently. Now, future years, if we look at having both rinks potentially, and as we've discussed, I'm open to looking at all options
And I think
as they come up.
I'll go to Alex next, but I believe the question is if no one has booked the rink, let's say next July.
Yeah.
There's a week in July, no one's booked it.
Yeah.
I could, in theory, book it from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. If there was no bookings from Monday to Friday and no one had there and I put in the request, I could book it from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. if I wanted to, all 5 days.
Right now for July,
Like if there was a week in July, no one else booked it because it's availability. So would I be able to go in and book? No one's booked it, 9 a.m. to 10, book it all, multiple hours.
starting July 2026, probably wouldn't take a book.
5 this year.
Oh, absolutely. We would take the request. And if we don't have people booking right now, though, I've asked staff to hang on till we get our chance to have our request in from our 6 main user groups so that we can look at equitable distribution and what we're dealing with. It's a tough call. We've got a growth here locally. You know, my first year last year and the year before that, we had sort of sporadic usage that increased about 8% last year. And that increase is mostly with camps and a few extra ice time bookings from local groups. This year, because there's been a sense of a need in the marketplace, we not only have our camps returning and our old timers hockey and our men's rec league and our usual bookings, but we've also got a couple of agencies and organizations that have popped up and formed here in the community that want that ice time, particularly all wanting the same ice time, to present private group facilitators. And they're not camps per se, they're private entities booking ice time and running drills and practices, and in some cases games with or other organizations, which is fantastic to see. But as I say, there's only that 5.5, roughly 6 hours of prime time available every afternoon that we then have to figure out. And that's probably the number one reason with that growth, why I presented the changes in the user fee and allocation policy to really create the most equitable and fair distribution of ice time based on a set criteria that wasn't per se set in stone in the past. And again, goes to the practices of what I think are some of the best policies I was able to come across in Western Canada to compare for similar sized communities, and again, create the most equitable, reasonable response to request. And that also means next year, that's in the policy that you may or may not have seen, is that not only will we be meeting in August and having a user meeting and meeting with those groups and figuring out what we can do to best meet their needs, because of the 20% increase in the spring, we'll be having a January meeting. And also, so we'll be dealing with our historical camps who don't necessarily need to be at that meeting, but those user groups that present themselves and want ice time, as they did say this year, we'll be meeting with them to say, please give us your request and we will come back to you with what we've got and what we have available. Now, that being said, if someone doesn't attend one of those groups and they want to come in and rent an ice time for a one-off, or they're new to the community and they want to start something, then again, based on whatever time the request comes in, we'll try and facilitate rentals with what we have available with the inventory as it presents itself in real time.
That sounds good. I just wanted to make sure what the way it's sounding is that we have ice sitting there and no one's using it, and we won't rent it because there's no one to flood it. We're short staffed, and it's like, oh, that's not.
We are absolutely open for business. That's been the direction that staff have been receiving from me for the last 12 months, particularly after, I believe, one of the mayor council meetings that we had a discussion in regards to ensuring we maximize usage with this particular project moving forward. Again, I work off data, so we'll be pulling data. Marley's been tasked at the end of August to pull all of our summer data. She's done some great work and her and Ashley have compiled lists. I'm going to be reaching out to those groups to see what's worked, what hasn't worked, so that when we meet next January and have interactions with those groups as well through minor hockey, to see how we can improve our best practices. So.
Okay.
Just so I know, because people call me and then I don't want to give the wrong answer. What was the date you said? It was May 19th? Did you say 19th? Or to submit their times or something, the ICE users?
So the ICE users that we have currently will be contacted within the next 48 hours, as per direction that came out of a meeting we had this afternoon with my managers and our booking staff,
And-
to get the times that they would like for July and August up until the end of the summer season, so that we can try and see what we can do to maximize usage and ensure that people getting the ice that they can get without necessarily trampling on the opportunities of others. So we're trying to have a win-win for the number of user groups we have, because it's not 20 or 30. So we feel it's an opportunity for us to collect the dates and see what we can make work. Now, that being said, that'll be negated next year, Councillor Gramlich, because we'll be meeting in January. And when people commit to those times, and we also have policy, and coming out of my discussions with Mayor Ward and our CAO, is we want to also ensure we have fair policy for those people that feel that they're okay to book multiple time slots through the spring and summer and then cancel them at the 11th hour as well. So we're trying to find that balance of how do we not have people eat up ice times and not use them. So part of that's the system we're using now, because we didn't have a January meeting because we didn't forecast the needs we were going to have this year.
Is it possible people might have been not able to rent ice because we were waiting for the 6 user groups, and that's the confusion for the general public?
No, the ice is available right now till the end of the month. If they're looking for July right now, I put a moratorium on bookings
Yeah, that might,
until we have and Marley's explained to staff, look, this is exactly what we're doing, because we have this interest that's over and above. We don't particularly have the policy set in stone quite yet. So I thought it was most fair and equitable to say, look, tell us what you're seeking and what your dates. We have to balance out with the fact that we've got a cancellation for 2 to 3 weeks of Arena One ice, because we've got an install of our new matting that will negate paint. Also, too, we've got a $70,000 project for our arena flooring. So we may close an extra week in July so that I can ensure that that $70,000 flooring we put in is installed at a temperature that's right. We're not trying to do it sort of half done when we're trying to retain the ice in and get it in early, but we're trying to have a temperature within the space where the glue may or may not bind,
Do it right once, the first time, yeah.
Exactly. So I'm balancing all those needs out. We are working too. We are looking at getting, having summer splashes and discussions. Had a meeting with the curling rink for us to be a tenant between Monday to Friday over at that space, provide a reasonable offering financially for them for use of that space. And so that when we have the contractor in mid-July to measure out the matting for rink 2, that upon his departure, we'll flood Arena 2 and that space will be available.
Perfect.
So we're working hard to ensure and make arrangements rather than have him fit that rink, roll it all up, put Summer Splash back in there and not put the ice back in till August. That didn't make any logical sense. So we are working hard to ensure we're maximizing when that ice is down and when it's available. And I don't have my understanding with yourself and Mayor Ward and the other councilors, if there's a need for us to have extra staffing to ensure that we meet the needs of our ice users to ensure that, I am happy and have been directed to come before council to make that request. And we'll do so when the time is deemed necessary. But
I'm gonna assume that was maybe the confusion, that they maybe weren't fully listening, that they could rent the ice once this comes out, but that I'm gonna.
so again, we were all getting on the same page as staff as what those timeframes are, when we're going to close the racket center, when we've got to do cleaning, when the rep's coming to do the measurement for the new white mesh underlay that we will then flood over those pieces, and also ensure that our bookings with our returning camps are met and lined up so that we can service them and welcome them back to the community, because we're excited to do so.
I'll let Alex chime in. Waiting.
Can I just ask Councillor Gromlich for clarity? At the beginning, you said people were saying they weren't getting floods. So
They were told that we cannot rent ice.
can you please turn your microphone
The
on?
staffing limitation. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Ward.
You are
They
welcome.
can't rent ice that far in advance due to staffing limitations, and it's including like flooding. And then so you can imagine ice users say, well, you have the ice in and you don't know when to flood it and what have you, right? But I'm understanding that's not accurate.
So, yeah, so maybe there's a bit of clarity that we can definitely work on for communication. As Joe mentioned, the ice is coming out, so there's obviously not going to be ice available. As far as day to day, in my travels over there and our fire department is a user group, there's times when we're allowing them to go past the closing time and we're just not flooding at the end of the night. So the ice is being overutilized and we're working on with staff. We've also just recently hired a former casual person to help with flooding if we're running into issues so we're putting everything we can at it for these groups to use. So if it's a clarification on when the ice is going to be out, we'll work on that. But day to day, there should be no issues with ice.
I assume, I presume, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I believe the message is clear. Council wants summer ice open and available for booking. Understand that we're not quite ready to book for some things because we're sorting out a few dates.
Absolutely.
And I believe that's hopefully where the cause of confusion comes up. If there's something else, we'll address it then. Is there anything else for community services while we're in question period and have Joe here? Okay, thank you. Anything for Alex in question period? Okay, then we will move forward into our committee minutes. First up is housing, which is myself. Find what it is. So there's an overall decline in the wait list from 71 to 64. The reason for the decline was that the senior self-contained, there were 7 move-outs with only 3 move-ins during that period. We also reviewed former Smith housing properties for asset management, as our organization had recently taken on some of those. The sewer renovation that was supposed to be completed months ago is now scheduled to be completed this past month. And there will be a deficiency review with the contractor regarding A, why it took so long, and B, the overage in the project there. That would be about it for housing. Tri-Council Health.
Thank you. Our operating room remains a challenge, and the community is losing a doctor later this year. The hospital has hired a social worker for the area, and we also have 1 LPN back and a second on the way. So this gives us our ability to do infusions in our hospital. For the last month, we had 2,902 visits, doctor visits, and over the summer, our numbers usually, the wait time usually changes, but right now it's about 7.7 days is the average time to kind of meet with or see a physician. We had 181 telehealth follow-up this month, which is typically just prescription refills. 31 individual patients came in for infusion. And in the last quarter, according to Alberta screening and prevention guidelines, the percentage of patients who are 40 years or older who are eligible to be screened for diabetes are at 55.9% in our area. And out of that 55.9%, the percentage of individuals who have diabetes and have their A1Cs in control is about 86%. So 86% of that 51%. And that's it.
Okay. Tourism.
Hey, I am very excited to announce that we are going to have our first new greater regional area. We're going to have our first meeting here coming up next week. So we do have formal commitments from the following municipalities and nations that will be sending a representative to our upcoming meeting: Big Lakes County, Sucker Creek, the town of High Prairie, Sawridge First Nation, town of Slave Lake, and MD 124. Invitations have been sent out to Sucker Creek and the MD of Opportunity as well. They have both expressed interest in joining the tourism group, and we are hoping that they will be sending people to come check out our meeting. I'd like to say a big thank you as well to the representatives for the Alberta North Central Alliance, as well as their administrator, Jennifer Turchill, for getting in touch with the right people at Travel Alberta. We had a very productive online meeting with them. And we had a lot of representation from some of the other new regional members as well. We had the opportunity to express our concerns with some of the challenges that we have continued to face regarding Travel Alberta. And we have been given a brand new representative from them who has extensive experience in tourism and exactly what we are hoping to accomplish here. So this is a huge, huge win for us, and I'm very happy to hear that. Our new rep and some Travel Alberta representatives will be planning a trip up to our region in the coming weeks so that they can explore our area and meet with us in person. So I'm very excited about this opportunity, and it's coming at exactly the right time. We will continue to work on adding tourism businesses within our region to the ATIS information system, which is a part of the Travel Alberta. We are continuing to look to add all events within our region to the listings as well, just to provide more visibility for the upcoming tourist season. And we continue to work on our plans for Beach Fest as well. All informations and sign-up forms available are on our website at theslavelakeregion.ca. Okay.
Okay, tourism, or sorry, I just said tourism, library.
We continue to review the board policies, board governance documents, and employment policies. This will be something that's ongoing throughout the year. They've also gone ahead and purchased 4 new tablets and wall mounts for it for the kids' stations. Just the existing ones are dead. They've had a number of incidents have gone down at the library. We're looking at a total of 11 incidents, 10 not involving police, and only 1 that police had to be called. But 8 of those also were reported by security. So security on site still seems to be a necessity. As far as programming within the library, we've had 20 different identifiable programs throughout the month of April. We had an attendance of 301 people for those programs. So it's not as high as what we usually see, but it is still fairly strong for the area. And that's about it.
MPC.
We approved a temporary development permit for my phone. We approved a temporary development permit for a concrete bonding plant and a number of development permits in Fournier Place. So that'll be exciting to see some homes maybe being built.
Next up is waste. Just continuing our meeting regarding ongoing operations of the site and potential collaborations with the MD moving forward for some new opportunities. Airport.
not me, it's never me.
It's always you.
It's never me.
You're the chair.
I've
So
never
it's,
reported my report. Sorry, I don't have it ready then.
Okay, we will,
I apologize.
Counselor Choba.
Motion to accept the committee minutes updates as information.
Any further discussion? Call to question, those in favor. And that is carried. Do we have anything for State of the Lake? Okay. I just had a brief note that we did sign a letter. There was a meeting today with support for the MD of 124 for hosting the summer games, their application for that. So the town of Slate Lake has signed a letter of support for them to move forward with their application. And we look forward to future developments with that. Counselor Choba.
Motion to adjourn.
Further discussion? Called question was in favor. And that is carried.